Number 5. Advanced genetic engineering. So some believed that the Anunnaki manipulated early human genetics, either to create us as we are today or to modify our ancestors for various purposes. Now there's many theories about how the world and humanity as we know it came to be, so hey, what's wrong with one more? Sure, it might be a lesser known one, but let's review what we have to compare it against. Starting with the Bible, the theory that I learned from birth, where the opening chapters of the book of Genesis explain that Adam and Eve are the first man and first woman. Adam's name first appears in Genesis 1 with a collective sense as mankind. Or was it Genesis the first? I'm sure somebody out there knows, it can let me know. In these chapters, God fashions a man from earth, breathes life into his nostrils, and makes him a caretaker over creation. God next creates for the man a helper, corresponding to him from his side or rib. She is called a woman because she is formed from man. The man receives her with joy, and the reader is told that from this moment a man will leave his parents to cling to a woman, the two becoming one flesh. The first man and woman are in God's Garden of Eden, where all creation is vegetarian and there is no violence. They are permitted to eat the fruits of all trees except one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The woman is tempted by a talking serpent to eat the forbidden fruit and gives some to the man, who eats also. God curses all three, the man to a lifetime of hard labor followed by death, the woman to the pain of birth and to subordination to her husband, and the serpent to go on his belly and suffer the enmity of both man and woman. God then clothes the nakedness of the man and woman, but become godlike in knowing good and evil, then banishes them from the garden lest they eat the fruit of a second tree, the tree of life, and live forever. And I'm currently on my period, so I am forever cursing God for the pain of birth and periods because it's ridiculous. Now, the other major theory is that of the Big Bang. I think the easiest way to explain is that it says the universe as we know it started with an infinitely hot and dense single point that inflated and stretched, first at unimaginable speeds and then at a more measurable rate, over the next 13.7 billion years to the still expanding cosmos that we know today. But once again, we're assuming that somehow one random singular point formed the perfect formula for living people as we know it. And also, before I forget the mention of genetic engineering, we're getting closer and closer to that every day. So in December of last year, a new conceptual facility named Ectolife made some major waves by advertising itself as the world's first artificial womb facility, offering a way for parents to produce customized spawn. Nope, this ain't The Sims, this is reality. The facility would run on renewable energy and plans to house 75 labs, each equipped with up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs, which are designed to provide the same environment that is present inside a mother's womb. Parents will be able to keep track of their spawn's growth and development through a screen on the pods that showcase real-time data, and that data will also be available to monitor through an app. Now, the artificial intelligence-based system can't be used to monitor the physical features of, said little one, and will report any potential genetic abnormalities. Now, during the time of delivery, the spawn can be removed from the pod with the push of a button. Now, the creator believes that artificial womb facilities could become a reality in 10 years or so if ethical restrictions are removed, claiming that every feature mentioned in the concept is 100% science-based and has already been achieved by scientists and engineers. And hey, if that isn't good enough, he's also promising an elite package that will allow people to genetically engineer the embryo before implanting it into the artificial womb, which I don't like the idea of that. That sounds really bad to me. But hey, what do I know? Parents will be able to select their little one's level of intelligence, height, hair, eye color, and physical strength and skin tone. But yes, bringing me back to my original point, going back to those Anunnaki aliens, it is believed that they engineered us, so what's the difference between them engineering us, humans, and now us engineering our own spawn? Number 4, anti-gravity and flight. So it's often suggested that these aliens possess the technology to fly, either within our atmosphere or between planets. Ancient depictions of winged gods or flying discs get cited as evidence, which kind of lead to support the modern-day UFO theories and beliefs. Depictions of modern craft found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors, which is believed to be the Anunnaki. So for folks like us, hieroglyphs appearing to resemble planes and helicopters and artwork done thousands of years ago have been hailed as unequivocal proof that the ancient Egyptians were visited by the folks above, with many supporters of the theory saying if the ancient civilization was putting helicopters and modern spacecraft in their artwork, then they must have seen them or at least observed images of them. Makes sense to me. Now, the helicopter hieroglyphs moniker is a name given to part of an Egyptian hieroglyph carving from the temple of Setsi I at Abydos. They've been interpreted as an out-of-place artifact, depicting some modern technology. Well, what we consider modern. So the initial carving translates to "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." It was later filled in with plaster and recarved during the reign of Ramesses II with the title "He who protects Egypt and overthrows the foreign countries." Over time, the plaster has eroded away, leaving both inscriptions partially visible and creating a overlapping palimpsest-like effect. As with all dates in ancient Egypt, the actual dates of Setsi's reign are unclear, and various historians propose different dates: 1294 BC to 1279 BC, 1290 BC to 1279. Those tend to be the most common according to scholars. I am not one, I'm just citing them. The 3,000-year-old hieroglyphs are not only said to depict a helicopter, but also, the usual symbols: insects, snakes, things that make me crawl and my neck go eek. One popular theory, known as the ancient aliens theory, is that, once again, the Anunnaki, the folks that brought details of futuristic technology to the Egyptians, they were visitors from a far-flung, highly advanced planet, visiting to share their knowledge with the primitive communities here on Earth. The beliefs claim these extraterrestrials were the ones behind the development of the pyramids, Stonehenge, and other famous world monuments. And this is not the last I'll be talking about that today. Steve Mera is a UFOologist who tours the country giving talks on the research he conducts. And at UFO conferences, he produces the helicopter hieroglyphs as part of the debate. During one talk, he pointed out that the helicopter, it looks like it's got a rotor blade, a rudder, also possibly a wing, which are all very specific things. Now, this technology could have very well directly led to what has become the modern-day human helicopter, and who knows what else. Now, I promise I didn't forget about anti-gravity. Theories argue that the Anunnaki possessed the technology to manipulate gravity, which when you think about what that could have done for today's society, it's just wild. Like, imagine being able to just float everywhere, or suspend gravity to help relieve strain on body parts. A dream. I always say that if I could have any superpower, I would like to be able to teleport for practicality purposes, but let me know what superpower you would want. Now, also the idea of suspending gravity to release some tension on my ankles would be lovely. Number 3, advanced metal and material manipulation. The theory that gold was of significant importance to the Anunnaki, perhaps for its alleged monoatomic properties or its use in advanced technologies, is kind of prevalent. Author Michael Cremo has researched the history of archaeology for 40 plus years, documenting findings that have been excluded from mainstream academic archaeology, findings that would disrupt the widely accepted story of human origins. Now, along with other authors such as Zachariah Sitchin, Eric von Daniken, Michael Tellinger, and several others, they kind of make compelling arguments that the Anunnaki were in fact off-world beings posing as gods. This theory asserts that these sky gods genetically engineered the human race as, their subspecies, which may account for weak links in the evolutionary story and the variations that I mentioned earlier. These theories give birth to the ancient astronaut hypothesis, asserting that off-world beings have been posing as gods to influence human affairs for millennia, which explains the presence in hieroglyphs. Many believe that the Anunnaki extracted massive amounts of gold using human labor, which is derived from multiple discoveries of ancient mining tunnels in South Africa, as well as relics and links to the Sumerians. Nobody knows why they wanted gold, nobody knows how much was taken, and it's believed the Anunnaki introduced the concept of money, finance, and debt to human societies. That could explain the evolution of mining into the gold rush era, with gold being equivalent to godliness and power. Nowadays, I find folks tend to forget just how dominant gold as a resource is, and how powerful gold mining can be to an economy. Granted, as a gal who grew up in a town where almost the entire economy relies on the success of gold mines, I'll never forget. My dad would never let me live it down. So it's crazy to think how the alien tech influenced that. Number 2, advanced sound and resonance technologies. So some theories suggest that the Anunnaki used sound as a building tool, especially when it came to constructions of, the pyramids and whatnot. So let's go back to those pyramids. Let's go to the city of El Giza, the Giza Pyramid Complex, the necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids. The Pyramid of Khafre, Menkaure, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. We've all heard about it. Each pyramid was created for a different pharaoh. But a lot of historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, since the arrangement of the structures might represent the Orion constellation. But the crown jewel of everything, the Great Pyramid. Most of us believe it was erected under the watchful eye of the pharaoh Khufu, to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Once again, that mention of godliness. Standing around 146.7 meters high and stretching 234.4 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is pretty amazing when you consider they didn't have the use of wheels at the time, and construction only took 20 years. If that sounds like a lot to anybody, try living in Toronto where construction takes that long to renovate a single road. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north quite precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. Now, the origins and composition of the pyramid, our oldest one in the world, have long confounded scholars. How did the engineers manage to achieve this masterpiece? How did they do it so quickly? Nobody knows. While some folks believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has actually been largely disproven because there's very little evidence to support the claim. So, we bring in the Anunnaki. Look, it's true, it would have been very difficult for humans to build the pyramids, and there's no historical evidence. So if we're gonna believe that it was the aliens, they came to Earth, they kickstart civilization, we're bringing in that God theory again, like it's all linking together, folks. Believers like us argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, one would need a bird's eye view, the kind that could be provided from, a flying saucer. In order to create an object that obeys a so-called golden ratio, the Egyptians would have needed help from outside sources. Also, once again, this Anunnaki tech, these great gods, whatever they were, they helped with Stonehenge. So imagine how it could have transformed to modern architecture. I could do with a couple of less bland buildings, okay? Number 1, advanced medical technologies. So based on stories of longevity, such as the extended lifespans of biblical figures and legends of healing abilities, some suggest that the Anunnaki possessed possessed advanced medical knowledge or tech. For starters, Methuselah is the oldest person in the Bible. He died when he was 969 years old. Make all the jokes you want. He's mentioned in the book of Genesis as the son of Enoch, the father of Lamech, and the grandfather of Noah. His story in the Bible is significant as he is a part of the genealogy that links Adam to Noah, if your belief in the creation of the world falls in line with the Adam and Eve story. Mine doesn't. Due to his old age, Methuselah has become part of popular culture, and his name is typically used when referring to the advanced age of people or things. Now, Jared is the second oldest man in the Bible and is a 6th generation descendant of Adam and Eve, lived to be 962. Noah is one of the most well-known biblical figures. In his story is, the flood. Most of us are probably familiar with it, where God flooded the earth to wash away mankind's misdeeds and rebuilt the world with the animals and Noah and his family aboard the ark. Well, he also lived to be over 900 years old. So the belief that the Anunnaki had tech that was able to extend life, but it left when they did, makes a lot more sense through that lens when you consider that it's rare that anybody these days makes it to like 100 or more. And that brings us to the end of our time, which means it's time for me to hit the history books to see what else there is to be discovered about these ancient gods. In 5th place, we have helicopter hieroglyphs. So depictions of modern crafts found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of time travel and even an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors. For folks like us, hieroglyphs appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago, have been hailed as unequivocal proof that the ancient Egyptians were visited by beings who brought with them advanced technology from the future, with many supporters of the theory saying if the ancient civilization was putting helicopters and modern spacecrafts in their artwork, then they must have seen them, or at least observed images of them, which, makes sense to me. The helicopter name is a name given to part of an Egyptian hieroglyph carving from the temple of Seti I at Abydos. They've been interpreted as an out-of-place artifact, depicting a helicopter, as well as other examples of modern technology. The initial carving was made during the reign of Seti I and translates to, "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." It was later filled in with plaster and recarved during the reign of Ramesses II with the title, "He who protects Egypt and overthrows the foreign countries." Over time, the plaster has eroded away, leaving both inscriptions partially visible and creating a palimpsest-like effect of overlapping hieroglyphs. As with all dates in ancient Egypt, the actual dates of Seti's reign are unclear, and various historians propose different dates, with 1294 BC to 1279 BC and 1290 BC to 1279 BC being the most commonly used by scholars today. Nevertheless, the 3,000-year-old hieroglyphs found in the temple in Abydos are said to depict a helicopter, plane, and futuristic aircraft amongst the usual insects, symbols, and snakes. Snakes. One popular theory, known as the Ancient Aliens theory, is that, like I said already, the advanced race who brought details of futuristic technology to the Egyptians were visitors from a far-flung, highly advanced planet, visiting to share their knowledge with the primitive communities here on Earth. The beliefs claim these extraterrestrials were the ones behind the development of the pyramids, Stonehenge, and other world-famous monuments. And this is not the last I'll be talking about that today. Steve Mera is a UFOologist who tours the country giving talks on the research he conducts, and at UFO conferences, he produces these hieroglyphs as, part of the debate. During one talk, he pointed out that the helicopter, describing how it has what looks like a rotor blade and a rudder, also possibly a wing, they had to have the visual from somewhere. Once again. In 4th place, we have Nazca Line. On a high and dry plateau some 200 miles southeast of Lima, more than 800 long, straight white lines are etched into the Peruvian desert. Looks to kind of be random. Joining them are 300 geometric shapes and 70 figures of animals, including a spider, a monkey, and a hummingbird. Okay, if I talk about spiders one more time today, I'm gonna jump out of my skin. Eep. I swear I used to claim my arachnophobia was mild, but it's getting worse by the week around here. The longest of the lines run, straight as an arrow for miles, and the biggest shapes stretch nearly 1,200 feet across and are best viewed from the air. Scientists suspect that the Nazca drawings are as many as 2 millennia old, and because of their age, size, visibility from above, and mysterious nature, the lines are often cited as one of the best examples of alien handiwork on Earth. Just, gonna emphasize that. Otherwise, how would an ancient culture have been able to make such huge designs in the desert without being able to fly? And also, why? First studied in the early 1900s, the designs were initially suspected to be aligned with constellations or solstices, but more recent work suggests that the Nazca lines point to ceremonial or ritual sites related to water and fertility. And in addition to being visible from the air, the shapes can be seen from surrounding foothills. In 3rd place, we have the Rosetta Stone. So the Rosetta Stone is one of the most famous objects in the British Museum, and is technically a broken part of a bigger stone slab. It has a message carved into it, written in 3 types of writing that helped experts learn to read Egyptian hieroglyphs. So the writing on the stone is an an official message, called a decree, about Ptolemy V. I swear I tried to look it up. If I forgot, I'm so sorry folks, I am running on an hour and a half of sleep today. The decree was copied on, large stone slabs called stelae, which were put in every temple in Egypt. The Rosetta Stone is one of these copies, so not particularly important at the time, but remember a moment ago when I mentioned it has 3 types of writing? So specifically, hieroglyphs used for priestly decrees, Demotic, which was the cursive Egyptian script used for daily purposes, meaning language of the people, and Ancient Greek, the language of the administrations, and the rulers of Egypt at this point were Greco-Macedonian after Alexander the Great's conquest. Now, here's where the aliens come in for me. What if these things also provided a means of translation for alien species? What if whoever visited to help build the pyramids and the helicopter-looking devices knew how to translate hieroglyphs, but not the other common dialects, and the boards also served as a helpful lexicon for them? The decrees were everywhere in Egypt, providing ample source material. So the Rosetta Stone was found broken and incomplete, featuring only 14 lines of hieroglyphic script. Although accounts of the stone's discovery in July of 1799 are now rather vague, the story generally accepted is that it was found by accident by the soldiers in Napoleon Bonaparte's army. They discovered the Rosetta Stone on July 15th of 1799 while digging the foundations of an addition to a fort near the town of Rashid in the Nile Delta. It had apparently been built into a very old wall. The officer in charge, Pierre-François Bouchard, realized the importance of the discovery. On Napoleon's defeat, the stone became the property of the British under the terms of the Treaty of Alexandria, along with other antiquities that the French had found. The stone was shipped to England and arrived in Portsmouth on February of 1802. When it was discovered, no one knew how to read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but because the inscriptions say the same thing in 3 different scripts, and scholars could still read ancient Greek, the Rosetta Stone became a valuable key to deciphering. Soon after the end of the 4th century AD, when hieroglyphs had, gone out of use, the knowledge of how to read and write them just disappeared. But, like I said before, in the early years of the 19th century, scholars were able to use the Greek inscription on the stone as that lovely little translation key. Thomas Young, an English physicist, was one of the first to show that some of the hieroglyphs on the Rosetta Stone wrote the sounds of a royal name, that of Ptolemy. The French scholar Jean-François Champollion then realized that hieroglyphs recorded the sound of the Egyptian language. This laid the foundations of our knowledge of ancient Egyptian language and culture. Champollion made a crucial step in understanding ancient Egyptian writing when he identified the hieroglyphs that were used to write the names of non-Egyptian rulers. Champollion inscribed this copy of the published paper alphabetic hieroglyphs, meaning à mon ami Dubois. He then made a second crucial breakthrough, realizing that the alphabetic signs were used not only for foreign names, but also for Egyptian names. Together with his knowledge of the Coptic language, which derived from ancient Egyptian, this allowed him to begin reading hieroglyphic inscriptions fully. After the stone was shipped to England in February of 1802, it was presented to the British Museum by George III in July of that year. So the Rosetta Stone and other sculptures were placed in temporary structures in the museum grounds because the floors were not strong enough to bear their weight. It has been on display in the British Museum since 1802, with only one break to, take a moment. So, go visit it. In second place, we have the graffiti inside the Great Pyramids. In the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids: the Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkaure, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Although each was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel, though, is the Great Pyramid. Most believe that it was erected under the watchful eye of the pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing approximately 146.7 meters high and stretching around 234 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is really amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time, and that construction took only 20 years. Okay, if that sounds like a lot to anyone, try living in Toronto where construction takes that long to renovate a single road, and by the time it's done being renovated, workers take so long they have to do it again. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north quite precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. The origins and composition of the Great Pyramid, our oldest wonder of the world and its slightly less famous kin, have long confounded scholars. How did engineers manage to achieve this seemingly impossible feats that building these masterpieces would require. And the truth is, no one knows for sure. While some believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has been largely disproven, as there is little archaeological evidence to support the claim. Naturally, theories arguing that aliens must have constructed the pyramid have come into play. It's true, it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids, and there is precious little historical evidence of how they were built. Citing this, as well as the architectural and scientific questions that surround the pyramids, many people, kinda like me, have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times and helped start civilizations. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, one would need a bird's eye view, the kind that could be provided from, say, a flying saucer. They also believe that in order to create an object that obeys the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on the special number of phi, the Egyptians would have needed help from outside sources. The alien theory has persisted to the present day. For example, in 2001, Russian scientist Dr. Viko Ivanovich claimed that the KGB had found ancient alien remains inside the Great Pyramid. Okay, come on. The Great Pyramid's inner network of shafts, passageways, and chambers is so intricate that it's hard to, not to understand why people believed that some kind of divinity or superintelligence was involved. Also, the only hieroglyphs inside are graffiti, alleged to be left behind by those who worked on the structure as a signature, which only further supports my theory on the aliens only knowing that to communicate with us by. Like time capsules, the pyramids are physical symbols of ancient wisdom, made of glittering golden limestone and always remaining around a cool 20 degrees centigrade inside. They provide glimpses of an ancient society that once neared the kind of technological intelligence we possess today. Hey, maybe in 2,000 years, historians will speculate about the extraterrestrial origins of our fallen civilization. And then by then, they'll be able to consult aliens for help. And in first place, we have Stonehenge. So, the mystery of Stonehenge has baffled historians for centuries. One of the never-ending questions about the ancient site is whether or not it contains hieroglyphs. And in 2015, a scientific paper was published by mathematician Dr. A.E. Zlobin in the form of a diary. He discovered Egyptian hieroglyphs in Stonehenge and determined the site as the solar Egyptian temple of the god Atum. There are several other theories that suggest that the site may have been used to record messages or a story. One theory suggests that the stones themselves may have been carved with hieroglyphics. This theory is based on the fact that many other ancient sites, such as the pyramids of Egypt, were decorated with hieroglyphs. Another theory suggests that the stones may have been used as a giant sundial, with the hieroglyphics acting as a way to record the movements of the sun. This theory is supported by the fact that Stonehenge is aligned with the movements of the sun and moon. Whatever the true purpose of it is clear that the site was of great importance to the ancient people who built it. Speaking of which, who built that thing and why did they build it? Nabta Playa, as it is now known, is not easily accessible. It is thought that the stones are among the oldest astronomical alignments of megaliths in the world. They were built by a nomadic society in the early centuries of Stonehenge, and it is possible that they were built by an ancient civilization. Also, the tomb there was only filled with cattle bones, which is pretty unusual. My theory, and ergo why it made today's list, is that the anomalies point more towards alien advanced communication instead of isolated humans. Also, there haven't really been signs of human life, only cattle like I mentioned before, which supports my theory. And not to sound like a broken record today, but if there's something I can't leave out, there are things we as humans, can't explain. It furthers my theory that one of the languages aliens can use to communicate with, and the reason they don't visit, more now compared to in history, is because of how much we can no longer communicate with them, now that it's not a regularly used language. And that brings us to the end of our time, and my theory has only grown stronger today. Just saying, feel free to let me know if you folks agree or disagree with me.
And for our number 5, we have Alan Hill's 84001. On December 27th, 1984, a team of American meteorite hunters from the ANSMET project, which stands for Antarctic Search for Meteorites, found a fragment just like the other members of the NSC group of meteorites. This special fragment is also thought to have originated on Mars. However, it didn't fit into any of the previously discovered SNC groups. Upon discovery, they weighed this meteorite fragment and it was 1.93 kilograms, 4.3 pounds. And around 8 years later, in 1996, a group of scientists actually found features in the likeness of microscopic fossils of bacteria in the meteorite, which suggests that these organisms also originated in Mars. And of course, these claims made headlines, and US President Bill Clinton at the time even gave a speech about the potential discovery. But just like the other claims of life life outside of our own planet, it was quite controversial from the very start. The wider scientific community rejected the hypothesis once all the unusual features in this special piece of meteorite were explained. Although it was just fossilized bacteria found, some believe it's a sign of life outside our own planet, whereas others believe this isn't proof of aliens at all. And this wasn't the only time they found fossil evidence, because on March 4th, 2011, NASA scientist Richard Hoover published a paper claiming to have found fossil evidence of cyanobacteria in carbonaceous meteorites. He actually observed slices of meteorites by scanning electron microscopes and identified filaments and structures that resembled the tiny single-celled algae. Some scientists were immediately skeptical because the study was published by a questionable journal, which was Cosmology. Other researchers believed the study was conducted thoroughly, but it was too soon to say for sure if the claim would hold up or not. Plus, in 1996, a team of science led by David McKay of NASA's Johnson Space Flight Center announced they had discovered evidence for microscopic fossil life in a meteorite from Mars. So maybe next time a meteor flies into our planet, start examining it for signs of life. And for number 4, we have Anaxagoras' Ark. In ancient Greece, there was a philosopher who was known as Anaxagoras, and he provided scientific explanations for what seemed like supernatural phenomena like eclipses, rainbows, and even suggested that the moon is not a god but rather a rock and the sun was a hot rock. And because of these claims, he was sentenced to the end of his life. Those weren't his only claims, because he also considered the possibility that the moon might actually be inhabited, which was very controversial and contradicted the dominant view of cosmos that was outlined by Plato and Aristotle. Plato refused to acknowledge the existence of worlds other than our own, and Aristotle rejected it because it didn't work with his understanding of gravity, which was that Earth was the one and only center of the universe. Although Anaxagoras' theories about the sun and moon were right, he did incorrectly believe that the Earth was flat, but still was the first to correctly explain the phenomenon of an eclipse. According to Greek mythology, the moon was personified as a goddess Selene, who visited the Earth according to the lunar cycle. But this view was contradicted by Anaxagoras' theory that the moon was rocky and physical body that was possibly inhabited by aliens. Although the philosopher lived between 500 BC and 428 BC, he is actually recognized as a brilliant scientist and philosopher by modern standards, but back in his time it was quite the opposite, as his close friend, who was also the infamous Greek politician General Pericles, testified to defend him at his trial, but it wasn't enough to save him. And that wasn't the only occurrence from the times before us that indicates life outside our own planet, and this is because of Anunnaki. The direct translation is princely offspring of the Anunnaki was believed to be an offspring of An and his consort of the earth goddess Kai. The Anunnaki theorem explored the concept of God and how it may have originated within the mythology of the ancient Sumerian people. There is a whole family tree that shows the grand assembly of the ancient Anunnaki, which is also referenced as the Sumerian family tree. They're known for being immortal gods who lived on Earth during the ancient Sumerian times in Mesopotamia. Archaeologists have not yet uncovered any indication or proof that the Anunnaki were worshipped collectively, but rather each god had their own individual cult and different cities had different temples dedicated to individuals. And if you're wondering how these gods and goddesses tie themselves to aliens, it's because a series of published books that started with the Chariots of the Gods back in 1968 by pseudo-archaeologists Eric von Däniken claimed that aliens of ancient astronauts had visited prehistoric Earth. He utilized the origins of religion and reactions to contact with the alien race and even offers interpretations of Sumerian texts and the Old Testament as evidence. And in 1976, another book titled The 12th Planet had the author Zechariah Stitchin claiming that the Anunnaki were actually advanced humanoid extraterrestrial species that were from the undiscovered planet of Nibiru, who came to Earth around 500,000 years ago and began mining our planet after discovering Earth had a lot of precious metals like gold. Others like Ronald H. Fritz wrote how, according to Stitchin, the Anunnaki built the pyramids and other structures across the ancient world that ancient astronaut theorists believe it was possible to build without highly advanced technology. But structures like the pyramid have been a heavy topic. Ultimately, archaeologists believe it was indeed built by humans. And for number 3, we have Sego Canyon or Barrier Canyon. There are thousands of rock art in the south southwest, but the oldest ones are from the Barrier Canyon pictographs found throughout the Colorado Plateau. They're often spotted along rivers, especially the Green and Colorado rivers, with some believed to be painted around 9,000 years ago. And many of them are at least 5,000 years old, which range anywhere from 5-inch animal figures to some interesting shapes. Some include a 8-foot human tall-like structure with no arms or legs, and even have big alien-like eyes. Of all the human-like figures, only 20 to 25% of them actually had eyes, and most had no ears or noses or any way to distinguish their genders. The color of the paint is often dark blood red, which is believed to be made by combining blood, clay, and even possibly urine as a binder. These paintings were so odd that they even featured on the History's channel Ancient Aliens, where Giorgio Tsoukalos shared how the ancient natives must have created this rock art to commemorate a visit from the extraterrestrials. Some of the figures painted even have antennas or headdresses, and most just have hollowed out eyes. Unfortunately, many areas have been heavily vandalized, which makes some of the art hard to see, but regardless, the pigment is still there to at least give you the ability to see the main shape of it. Some believe these are for sure aliens, whereas others believe they could be hallucinations. Regardless, are definitely very interesting and unique, and definitely piques our curiosity of what inspired these figures to be drawn. Other paintings have been believed to resemble UFOs, like the painting of the Baptism's Church from 1710, which seems to be showing a flying disc-like object with light beams. For number 2, we have ancient Egyptian pharaonic coffin. It's no secret that archaeologists have found coffins dating back to ancient Egypt, hidden in pyramids or other areas. But did you know that NASA released photos taken on the Red Planet, which many believe prove that Martians do exist? Well, Scott Waring, who is an author and UFO expert, believes that the photos show ancient Egyptian pharaonic coffins. The shape of the so-called body seems to match up with other pharaonic coffins, plus there are many pharaonic inscriptions or sarcophagus, which the inscriptions were identified by advanced cameras. And surprisingly, this isn't the only tie to ancient Egypt space seems to have, because a year prior to this discovery, NASA rover Corsetti gained a ton of attraction after astronomers believed it revealed an ancient statue. In fact, many astronomers and even archaeologists believe that ancient Egyptians on Earth or pharaohs actually came from Mars. Apparently, others spot carvings that resemble faces and even unfinished statues, which some believe it is what the Martians left behind. Waring describes the faces and differences between what we perceive as human figures compared to the carvings, which appear to also have an eye, nose, and chin, but very extended forehead, which Waring believes could mean it occupied a more advanced brain. Although many believe this is way too weird to just be a coincidence, none of this is backed up by scientific proof, but that doesn't stop archaeologists and the public in general to think otherwise. And for our number 1 spot, we have the NASA Viking lander. Back in 1976, NASA's 2 Viking landers touched the surface of Mars, and the probes conducted a host of biological experiments, which even included collecting samples of Martian soil to test for organic compounds. But what's so special about organic compounds? Well, it is the building block of life, and being able to detect biosignatures could allude to the presence of microorganisms. In other words, at least some form of life. However, the results were deemed ambiguous, but they really did find evidence of current microbial life in the Martian soil. And this wasn't the only time life was once seemingly on Mars, because a team of scientists at Penn State analyzed Curiosity rover data and found that Mars could have actually had more flowing water or rivers than once believed, and if there is water, there is life. In a study published by Geophysical Research Letters, the researchers determined that many craters covering Mars could have actually been habitable rivers. Benjamin Cardenas, who is a Penn State geosciences professor, stated Mars could have had far more rivers than previously believed, which certainly paints a more optimistic view of ancient life on Mars. And he also added, it offers a vision of Mars where most of the planet once had the right conditions for life. And just recently, NASA's Perseverance rover found another form of evidence of flowing water on Mars. In early December of 2023, NASA released photos that were captured, which shows a collection of rocks and pebbles around Mars's Jezero crater. So what's so interesting about rocks? Well, it's believed that rocks and pebbles that were visible in the photo were brought in by strong floodwaters from billions of years ago. Life ultimately doesn't equal the aliens we may picture in our head. And the reason why scientists are curious about water on other planets is because life started in water on Earth as a form forms microorganisms, which leads to the formations of different or more complex aquatic organisms. And for life on land, scientists believe that animals and plants on land developed later on. It is almost a given that if a planet has water, there are much greater chances that it'll develop life forms. But what about other planets? Other than Mars, they often search Europa, which is a satellite of Jupiter. And it is a frozen world, and scientists even believe that there is a vast liquid ocean below the thick ice which may harbor life.
Number 5. The Dogon tribe in Sirius B. The Dogon tribe residing in the Bandiagara escarpment in Mali has long been a subject of intrigue and wonder. What sets them apart is their extraordinary astronomical knowledge, particularly concerning the Sirius star system. The Dogon's insights into the system are remarkably advanced, especially considering the limited observational tools available to them. The Sirius star system, especially noticeable for the brightest star in our night sky, Sirius A, holds a central place in Dogon mythology and cosmology. However, it's their knowledge of Sirius B, a companion star to Sirius A, which truly baffles scientists and historians. Sirius B is a dense white dwarf star that cannot be seen with the naked eye. The Dogon described Sirius B as a tiny yet heavy star, invisible to the human eye, and following a 50-year elliptical orbit around Sirius A. They even referred to a third star in the system, which modern astronomy hadn't confirmed until just recently. The accuracy of their descriptions raises the question, how could a tribe without advanced astronomical instruments obtain such detailed astronomical information? The mystery deepens when you also consider the timeline. The Dogon's knowledge of Sirius B predates its discovery and photographic capture by Western astronomers. In the 20th century. This has led to various hypotheses. Some theorists propose that the Dogon's knowledge is too precise to be coincidental. They speculate that the tribe might have had direct contact with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, possibly visitors from the Sirius system itself, who imparted this astronomical knowledge. Another theory suggests that ancient civilizations had developed sophisticated observational techniques, or that the Dogon had inherited knowledge from ancient predecessors like the Egyptians or Sumerians, who might have been capable of such observations. The primary source of Western knowledge about the Dogon's astronomical beliefs comes from French anthropologist Marcel Griol and his student Germain Dieterlen. Their studies in the 1930s and 40s documented the Dogon system of thought. The Dogon tribe's understanding of Sirius B remains one of the most compelling mysteries of ancient knowledge and cultural history. Whether the result of extraterrestrial contact, ancient observational prowess, or cultural misinterpretation, it challenges our understanding of historical knowledge transfer and the development of astronomical studies. Number 4. The Tulli Papyrus. This intriguing artifact is an ancient Egyptian text which was purportedly discovered in the 1930s by Alberto Tulli, a Vatican Museum director. The papyrus is said to be a transcript of an older document from the reign of Thutmose III around 1480 BCE. What makes the Tulli Papyrus so captivating is its description of an extraordinary event, the appearance of what the text calls circles of fire in the sky. According to the translation of the papyrus, these fiery circles were observed over several days, and their presence caused great concern among the Egyptian kingdom. The text describes the sky being filled with these mysterious objects flying closer and closer to the earth, which is an imagery that modern interpretations liken to a fleet of UFOs. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Tulli Papyrus is not just a fleeting mention of these phenomena. It allegedly details how these circles of fire eventually ascended back into the sky, making this account one of the most detailed ancient descriptions of what could be interpreted as a UFO encounter. However, the Tulli Papyrus is shrouded in controversy. The original document has never been found, and all that remains are copies of the supposed translation. This lack of original evidence casts doubt on its authenticity, with some experts considering it a modern fabrication or a misinterpretation of a historical event, such as a meteorological or astronomical phenomenon. Despite these doubts, if the Tulli Papyrus is genuine, it stands as a remarkable record. It would not only push back the timeline of reported UFO sightings, but also provide an astonishing connection between ancient civilizations and the enduring mystery of unidentified flying objects. Number 3, the Vimanas of ancient India. Next, we delve into the mystical world of ancient India with the Vimanas. These fascinating machines are described in two of India's most ancient and revered Sanskrit epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. The term Vimana literally translates to measuring out, traversing, or having been measured out. In these texts, Vimanas are depicted as chariot-like flying machines, often piloted by the gods or other extraordinary beings. The descriptions of Vimanas are remarkably detailed. They're portrayed not just as mere flying chariots, but as sophisticated, multi-storied aerial vehicles capable of traversing long distances and performing complex maneuvers in the sky. Some descriptions even suggest that these Vimanas were powered by some form of advanced propulsion system, perhaps akin to jet or rocket technology, but the exact mechanisms remain a subject of speculation and mystery. One of the most intriguing aspects of these descriptions is their technical detail. The texts, for instance, speak of Vimanas using a combination of mercury and a heat engine to generate a powerful thrust. This level of technological sophistication in ancient texts has led some researchers and enthusiasts to postulate that these descriptions are not mere myths or allegorical stories, but accounts of real machines possibly inspired by or handed down from extraterrestrial visitors. In the Ramayana, for instance, the Vimana known as the Pushpaka is described as being able to fly at the speed of the wind and give forth a melodious sound. There's also a detailed account of a battle in the sky where Vimanas were used, which some interpret as an ancient depiction of an aerial battle involving advanced technology. The concept of Vimanas has not only captivated those interested in ancient alien theories, but also influenced modern UFOlogy and even inspired aspects of early 20th century aerospace engineering. The mystery deepens when we consider that similar flying machine descriptions are found in other ancient cultures and texts worldwide, suggesting a possible global phenomenon or shared knowledge of an advanced technology that predates known human civilizations. In conclusion, the Vimanas of ancient India, with their detailed and technologically advanced descriptions, continue to be a source of fascination and debate. Whether they were imaginative creations of our ancestors or based on real technologies possibly influenced by extraterrestrial contact remains one of history's most intriguing mysteries. Number 2, the Anunnaki of Sumerian mythology. These beings occupy a central place in the ancient Mesopotamian pantheon. Recorded in several ancient texts, including the famous Epic of Gilgamesh, the Anunnaki are depicted as powerful deities with immense influence over the natural world and human affairs. What makes the Anunnaki stand out in the annals of ancient mythology is their purported origin. These texts often describe the Anunnaki as those who from heaven to earth came, a phrase that has ignited imaginations and sparked theories about extraterrestrial visitations. Some scholars and enthusiasts argue that this description suggests the Anunnaki were not mythical deities, but rather advanced beings from another world. The influence attributed to the Anunnaki is vast and varied. They were seen as the masters of the earth, shaping its landscapes and directly interfering in human destiny. Their technological prowess, as described in these texts, includes flying in the sky and possibly even space travel. This perceived technological sophistication has led some to speculate that the Sumerian civilization might have been assisted or influenced by these otherworldly visitors. Moreover, the Anunnaki are often associated with ancient knowledge and the development of civilization. They are credited with teaching humanity various arts and sciences, from agriculture to law, from kinship to construction. This notion of gods bestowing knowledge upon humans aligns intriguingly with theories of ancient astronauts, extraterrestrial beings guiding or accelerating human development. The physical depiction of the Anunnaki also adds to their mystery. They're often shown with distinct non-human features and sometimes with what appear to be technological devices. These depictions have been interpreted by some as evidence of their extraterrestrial nature. As we explore these ancient stories, we're left to wonder. Were the Anunnaki simply mythical figures crafted from the imagination of our ancestors, or could they have been visitors from another world, playing a pivotal role in the dawn of human civilization? Number 1, the Pumapunku Ruins, Bolivia. Lastly, we turn our gaze to the astonishing ruins of Pumapunku, a marvel of ancient engineering nestled in the highlands of Bolivia. This site, part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, dates back to approximately 536 to 600 AD, according to radiocarbon dating. What makes Pumapunku extraordinary is not just its age, but its architectural sophistication. Imagine stone blocks weighing up to 80 tons, each intricately carved with laser-like precision. H blocks, for example, are famous for their uniformity and precision cut lines, baffling experts as to how such accuracy was achieved with the tools supposedly available at the time. These blocks interlock in complex patterns, suggesting a level of architectural planning and skill that rivals modern engineering feats. The precision of these structures is so high that some theorists suggest the involvement of advanced technologies, possibly extraterrestrial in origin. They argue that the technology required to shape these stones with such accuracy was not known to exist in pre-Columbian Americas. The purpose of Puma Punku also remains a mystery. The site appears to have been abruptly abandoned, with many of its structures left unfinished. This has led to various speculations ranging from a sudden natural disaster to the influence of otherworldly visitors. Archaeologists and historians, while acknowledging the site's complexity, typically attribute the achievements of Puma Punku to human ingenuity and the sophisticated societal organization of the Tiwanaku culture. However, the lack of definitive explanations continues to fuel theories of ancient aliens and advanced lost technologies. In essence, Puma Punku stands as a testament to the ingenuity of ancient civilizations, while simultaneously posing questions that challenge our understanding of human history and technological evolution.
Number 5, an ancient fortress. Outside the old Inca capital of Cusco, a fortress called Sacsayhuaman is hanging out in the Peruvian Andes. Built from enormous stones that have been chiseled and stacked together like a jigsaw puzzle, some say this fortress could be the work of an ancient civilization that had help from interstellar friends. The 1,000-year-old interlocking fortress walls are made of rocks that weigh as much as 360 tons each, and which were carried more than 20 miles before being lifted and fit into place with laser-like precision. How an ancient culture accomplished such a feat of engineering is a fun little problem to solve. Turns out the Inca were as adept at building houses and fortified complexes as they were as watching the sky and keeping calendars. As a matter of fact, this fortress isn't the only example of this intricate masonry. Similar walls exist throughout the Inca Empire, including one in Cusco where a 12-angled stone has been carefully wedged into place. Something I'll bring up a lot today is that the marvels of ancient architecture just can't be explained by what we know about history. Sure, by modern standards some of it can be explained, but our technology had to evolve to that point first. The only way it can make sense in history is if we got help from a more advanced species. Number 4, graffiti inside the Great Pyramids. In the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids: the Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkaure, and of course the Great Pyramid of Giza. Although each was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel, though, is the Great Pyramid. Most believe it was erected under the watchful eye of the pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing around 146.7 meters high and stretching 234.4 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is particularly amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time, and that construction only took 20 years. If that sounds like a lot to anyone, try living in Toronto, where construction takes that long to renovate like a single street. And by the time it's done being renovated, workers take so long they have to do it again. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north pretty precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. The origins and composition of the Great Pyramid, our oldest wonder of the world, and its slightly less famous kin, have long confounded scholars. So, how did engineers manage to achieve these seemingly impossible feats that building these masterpieces would require? Well, the truth is, nobody knows for sure. While some believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has been largely disproven, as there is little archaeological evidence to support the claim. Naturally, theories arguing that aliens must have constructed the pyramid have come into play. It's true that it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids, and there's precious little historical evidence of how they were built. Citing this, as well as the architectural and scientific questions that surround the pyramids, many people, myself included, have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times and helped kickstart civilizations. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, one would need a bird's eye view, the kind that can be provided from, say, a flying saucer. They also believe that in order to create an object that obeys the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on the special number phi, the Egyptians would have needed help from outside sources. Hey look, the alien theory has persisted to the present day. In 2001, Russian scientist Dr. Viktor Ivanovich claimed that the KGB had found ancient alien remains inside of the Great Pyramid. Certainly the Great Pyramid's inner network of shafts, passageways, and chambers is so intricate that it's not hard to understand why people believed that some kind of divinity or superintelligence was involved. Also, the only hieroglyphs inside are graffiti, alleged to be left behind by those who worked on the structure as a signature, which only further supports my theory on the aliens only knowing that to communicate with us by. Like time capsules, the pyramids are physical symbols of ancient wisdom. Made of glittering gold limestone and always remaining around a cool 20 degrees centigrade inside, they provide glimpses of an ancient society that once neared the kind of technological intelligence we possess today. Hey, maybe in 2,000 years, historians will speculate about the extraterrestrial origins of our fallen civilization, and by then, they'll be able to consult actual aliens for help. Number 3. Helicopter hieroglyphs. Depictions of modern craft found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of time travel, and even an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors. For folks like us, hieroglyphs appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago have been hailed as unequivocal proof that the ancient Egyptians were visited by beings who brought them advanced technology from the future, with many supporters of the theory saying if the ancient civilization was putting helicopters and modern spacecraft in their artwork, then they must have seen them or at least observed images of them, which makes sense to me. The helicopter hieroglyphs is a name given to part of an Egyptian hieroglyph carving from the temple of Seti I at Abydos. They've been interpreted as an out-of-place artifact depicting a helicopter as well as other examples of modern technology. The initial carving was made during the reign, like I said, of Seti I and translates to "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." It was later filled in with plaster and recarved during the reign of Ramesses II with the title "He who protects Egypt and overthrows the foreign countries." Over time, the plaster has eroded away, leaving both inscriptions partially visible and creating a palimpsest-like effect of overlapping hieroglyphs. As with all dates in ancient Egypt, the actual date of Seti's reign are unclear, and various historians propose different dates, with 1294 BC to 1279 BC and 1290 BC to 1279 BC being the most commonly used by scholars today. Back to the hieroglyphs. So the 3,000-year-old hieroglyphs found in the temple are said to depict a helicopter, plane, and futuristic aircraft among the usual, insects, symbols, and snakes. One popular theory, known as the ancient aliens theory, is that the advanced race who brought details of futuristic technology to the Egyptians were visitors from a far-flung, highly advanced planet, visiting to share their knowledge with the primitive communities here on Earth. The beliefs claim that these extraterrestrials were the ones behind the development of the pyramids, Stonehenge, and other famous monuments. And this wasn't the first, nor the last time I will be talking about that today. Steve Mera is a UFOologist who tours the country giving talks on the research he conducts. And at UFO conferences, he produces the helicopter hieroglyphs as part of the debate. During one specific talk in Warminster, Wiltshire, he pointed out the helicopter, describing how it has what looks like a rotor blade and a rudder, also possibly a wing. Look, they had to have the visual from somewhere. Just saying. Number 2, Stonehenge. So the mystery of Stonehenge has baffled historians for centuries. One of the never-ending questions about the ancient site is whether or not it contains hieroglyphics. And in 2015, a scientific paper was published by a mathematician, Dr. A.E. Zlobin, in the form of a diary. He discovered ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs in Stonehenge and determined the site as the solar Egyptian temple of the god Atum. However, there are several other theories that suggest that the site may have used to record messages or stories. One theory suggests that the stones themselves may have been carved with hieroglyphics, and that theory is based on the fact that many other sites, such as the pyramids of Egypt, were also decorated with such writing. Another theory suggests that the stones may have been used as a giant sundial, with the hieroglyphics acting as a way to record the movements of the sun. So this theory is supported by the fact that Stonehenge is aligned with the movements of the sun and moon. Whatever the true purpose of it is, it's clear that the site was of great importance to the ancient people who built it. Speaking of which, who built that thing, and why did they build it? Nabta Playa, as it is now known, is not easily accessible. It is thought that the stones are among the oldest astronomical alignments of megaliths in the world, and were built by a nomadic society in the early centuries of Stonehenge, and it's possible that they were built by an ancient civilization. Also, the tomb nearby was also only filled with only cattle bones, which is really unusual. My theory, and ergo why it made today's list, is that the anomalies point more towards alien advanced communication instead of isolated humans. Also, there haven't really been signs of human life. Only cattle, like I mentioned before, which supports my theory, and not to sound like a broken record today, but if there's something I can't leave out, where there are hieroglyphs, there are things we as humans can't explain. It furthers my theory that one of the languages aliens can communicate with, and the reason they don't visit more now compared to in history, is because of how much we no longer communicate with them, now that it's not a regularly used language. Stonehenge is thought to have been formed between the ancient Neolithic and Bronze Ages, while the pyramids are thought to have formed during the Iron Age. For those who need more precision, Stonehenge is thought to be around 3,100 years old, while the pyramids are thought to be around 4,500 years old. Just for reference. Number 1, an alien mummy. Another sign that excites supporters of the claim that ancient Egypt was visited by aliens is a mummy discovered in a small pyramid near Senusret II's pyramid. Now, the structure of its skeleton doesn't really resemble that of a human's body. It's a skeletal conundrum made up of perplexing features. So it's only 6 inches tall, but initial estimates of the age of the bones were consistent with someone in the single digits of age. But the face is what looks especially different. The long angular skull with slanted eye sockets and fewer than normal ribs, 10 pairs rather than the normal 12, only really deepen the mystery. The mummy was discovered by Dr. Victor Luback, a retired professor from the University of Pennsylvania. The remains were found surrounded by unusual objects that could not be identified. An anonymous source claimed that the mummy does not originate from Earth, and that it has greatly troubled Egyptian authorities, who want to keep it a secret. According to the source, in life the mummy served as an advisor to the pharaoh Osiris. Governments refuse to admit the implications that such a discovery has for human history, but they still fail to provide the world with a significant explanation for it. When I tried to learn more about this mummy, most of the links and resources had randomly gone missing and weren't archived anywhere, which tends to be par for the course when the government wants to cover up the truth about anything to do with aliens. I swear one of these days I'm just gonna go missing, and the government will be to blame.
Number 5. The Mexican Roswell Stone. The Mexican Roswell Stone, also known as the Stone of the First Encounter, is an artifact thought to have major extraterrestrial connections. Discovered in a remote village in Mexico, this stone has sparked curiosity and debate among researchers and UFO enthusiasts for over a decade. The stone was unearthed by a farmer named Dionisio Pulido in 2011 while he was plowing his field. Pulido reported finding a strange flat black stone buried underneath the soil. Intrigued by its peculiar appearance, he contacted local authorities, who quickly recognized the potential significance of the discovery. The Mexican Roswell Stone is a smooth, oval-shaped object measuring approximately 30 centimeters in diameter. It is made out of a dark, glass-like material resembling obsidian but with unique characteristics. Researchers note the absence of any tool marks on its surface, raising questions about its possible artificial origin. One of the most intriguing aspects of the stone is the presence of intricate engravings on its surface. The carvings depict a variety of symbols, including what some interpret as a stylized representation of the cosmos, celestial bodies, and humanoid figures. Some researchers claim these symbols suggest a connection to ancient astronaut theories and extraterrestrial visitations. Initial analysis revealed that the stone is composed of a type of glass called diorite, a substance found in the Earth's crust. However, the absence of typical tool marks challenges conventional explanations for its creation. Some argue that the stone's unique properties may result from unconventional manufacturing techniques. The discovery of the Mexican Roswell Stone has fueled various theories. Some people propose that it represents evidence of ancient contact with advanced civilizations, possibly civilizations of extraterrestrial origin. On the other hand, some suggest that the stone may be a modern hoax designed to attract attention or promote tourism in the region. And hey, it got my attention, so if it is a hoax, they did a pretty good job. The village has actually experienced an influx of tourists and researchers eager to examine the artifact firsthand. While this attention has brought economic benefits, it has also led to increased scrutiny and speculation about the authenticity of the discovery. Number 4. Tulum Underwater Cave Paintings. The Tulum Underwater Cave paintings, located off the coast of Tulum in Mexico, have captivated researchers and divers alike due to their strange, unanswered nature. Dating back over 1,000 years, these submerged artworks provide a unique glimpse into ancient civilizations and their connection to the cosmos. They were discovered fairly recently, in 2019, by a team of underwater archaeologists led by Dr. Helena Rodriguez. The Tulum Underwater Cave paintings consist of intricate designs and symbols painted on the cave walls. The vibrant pigments used in these artworks have remarkably endured the test of time, preserving the visual narrative of an ancient culture. Dating methods suggest that the paintings originate from around 900 to 1200 AD. One eye-catching feature of the Tulum Underwater Cave paintings is the bouts of cosmic imagery. Researchers have positively identified depictions of celestial bodies, constellations, and what appears to be advanced astronomical knowledge. The presence of such cosmic themes has fueled speculation about the possibility of extraterrestrial influences. Advocates of the ancient astronaut hypothesis, and I didn't know that you could be an official advocate for a hypothesis, but I was also unaware that this was like an official group. It's all capital, by the way, like ancient astronaut, capital A's, proper nouns. Like, this is an official group dedicated to the study of ancient astronauts. I'm sidetracked, sorry. Anyway, the capital A ancient astronaut advocates propose that the Tulum Underwater Cave paintings may depict encounters with extraterrestrial beings. Some think that the cosmic imagery would represent advanced knowledge bestowed upon the Maya up by extraterrestrial visitors, influencing their art, spirituality, and possibly even technological advancements. Another theory suggests that the paintings serve as a form of communication or homage to extraterrestrial entities. The intricate symbols and depictions of otherworldly beings might symbolize a connection between the ancient Maya and beings from beyond Earth, possibly influencing their religious practices. Some researchers propose that the cosmic imagery in the Tulli underwater cave paintings reflects the Maya's deep-seated cosmic rituals and beliefs. Rather than extraterrestrial influence, these theories suggest that the Maya developed a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, integrating it into their spiritual practices and daily lives. While the cosmic imagery has sparked intriguing theories of extraterrestrial influence, the true meaning behind these underwater masterpieces remains a mystery. Number 3. Tuxtla Statuette. The Tuxtla Statuette was discovered in the Tuxtla Mountains of Mexico in the early 1930s. This small jadeite figurine stands only 6 centimeters tall and depicts a humanoid creature with an elongated head and large almond-shaped eyes. Archaeologists date the Tuxtla Statuette to approximately 1200 BCE to 400 CE. Its craftsmanship reflects the skilled artistry of ancient Mesoamerican cultures. The figurine's small size and exquisite detailing make it a unique find. Numerous theories have emerged speculating about the Tuxtla Statuette's potential extraterrestrial origin. While mainstream archaeology attributes it to indigenous cultures, alternative perspectives propose unconventional ideas. Again, advocates of the official ancient astronaut hypothesis argue that artifacts like the Tuxtla Statuette depict extraterrestrial beings who allegedly visited Earth in ancient times. They claim that the figurine's humanoid features, especially the elongated head and large eyes, resemble descriptions of aliens reported in modern UFO encounters. Some researchers suggest that the Tuxtla Statuette may represent a deity or mythological figure within the cultural context of ancient Mesoamerica. The elongated head might symbolize spiritual or divine qualities rather than extraterrestrial origins. A more conventional interpretation sees the Tuxtla Statuette as a product of artistic expression within the cultural styles of its time. The figurine may have served ritualistic or ceremonial purposes, possibly related to shamanistic practices or religious beliefs. Understanding the cultural context and artistic traditions of the Olmec civilization is important while researching an explanation that may lay within a holistic interpretation. As archaeological research advances and new discoveries are made, the true nature and purpose of the Tuxtla Statuette may become more clear. Number 2. The Mayan Crystal Skulls. The crystal skulls are a set of strange artifacts that have fascinated both archaeologists and conspiracy theorists for so many years. These crystal skulls are precisely what they sound like: human skull-shaped carvings made from various types of quartz crystal. Most of them date back to pre-Columbian South American civilizations, specifically the Aztec, Mixtec, and Maya. The theories around these skulls is what continues to make them so popular and intriguing, and let me tell you, there are a lot of theories. Some people believe that the skulls are ancient relics with supernatural or extraterrestrial origins, while others think they possess mystical or healing powers. One popular theory is that the crystal skulls were created by advanced ancient civilizations that possessed knowledge far beyond what we currently assume and understand. Some parts of this theory suggest that these crystals hold the secrets of lost technologies and predictions about future events. Then, of course, there's the theory that suggests the skulls are linked to extraterrestrial beings. This theory further assumes that these artifacts were gifts or messages from ancient alien visitors to Earth, gifted with the intention to guide or enlighten the less advanced beings that they had stumbled across, humans. Skeptics, however, assume that these crystal skulls are simply modern creations, likely made during the late 1800s or early 1900s, and were then falsely aged so they would appear as ancient artifacts. Some well-documented forgeries and the absence of archaeological context for many of these skulls do add a lot of substance to skeptics' beliefs. Despite this, the mystery surrounding the crystal skulls continues to capture the imaginations of curious minds and fuel a lot of debates about their origins, purpose, and theorized mystical properties. Whether they're being viewed as ancient relics, products of elaborate hoaxes, or otherworldly symbols, the crystal skulls have become a fascinating and intriguing find for the world of archaeology and unknown phenomena. Number 1. Tulli's mysterious frescoes. Tulli, situated along the picturesque coast of Mexico, is well known for the ancient Mayan ruins that stand as a testament to a formerly rich and highly sophisticated civilization. Among the intriguing artifacts within Tulli's archaeological site are the mysterious frescoes that adorn the walls of various structures. Tulli's frescoes date back to around 1200 to 1521 AD. These incredible, intricate murals depict scenes of daily life, religious rituals, and mythological narratives. The vibrant colors and detailed imagery provide a glimpse into the cultural and spiritual practices of this ancient society. One of the most intriguing and controversial controversial theories surrounding Tulli's frescoes suggests an extraterrestrial influence on their creation. Advocates of this theory, though not part of an official capitalized letter organization, point to certain elements in the artwork that seem to depict unconventional beings and advanced technology, sparking speculation about an out-of-this-world connection. Certain frescoes in Tulli depict figures with elongated heads, resembling the classic depiction of aliens. Symbols resembling spacecraft and celestial bodies are identified in the artwork as well. While skeptics dismiss these interpretations, some argue that the Mayans might have had contact with extraterrestrial beings, influencing their artistic expressions. Obviously, not all scholars and archaeologists subscribe to the extraterrestrial theory. Many propose alternative explanations, suggesting that the unusual figures and symbols in the frescoes could be representations of deities, shamanic visions, or mythological beings from Mayan cosmology. Many also argue that attributing the frescoes to extraterrestrial influence oversimplifies the complex nature of Mayan art and mythology. They state that the Mayans employed artistic license and symbolic imagery, using unconventional forms to convey spiritual and cultural concepts unique to their worldview. While the mystery surrounding Tulli's frescoes continues to captivate the imaginations of researchers and enthusiasts alike, the debate over their alleged extraterrestrial origin remains inconclusive. Whether rooted in Mayan mythology or influenced by cosmic encounters, these ancient artworks stand as proof of the intricacy of human history, and how if you're not part of an official organization, I am less likely to believe the theories you're telling me. Ancient astronauts? But ancient astronauts with 2 capital A's? Yeah, you've got my full attention.
When you hear the term alien invasion, do you think end of the world or just another day in the office? Personally, it's the latter for me, but let me know your reaction in the comments. Let's start off today with what might have been one of the world's first UFO crashes ever, which took place over in Italy. According to Italian researcher Roberto Pinotti, he believes the first modern aliens arrived in Italy rather than America. Apparently, the first aliens did not emerge from the wreckage at Roswell, and forget about them hanging around Alien 51. Roberto has been investigating a rumored UFO crash in Italy from back in the 1930s, and he's been doing the study since 1996, which was before I was born. And in more recent years, somebody mailed him some strange documents anonymously. Hey, chuckle all you want, but we tend to give anonymous whistleblowers the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise around here. No, this corner of the interwebs. These records revealed attempts to conceal the occurrence. Now, the researcher is the National Ufological Center's president and claims to have proof not just of the 1933 UFO crash, but also of a secret department established by Benito Mussolini, you know, the famous former dictator of Italy. If you couldn't guess, this was to investigate the rumored UFO. According to the researcher, an unidentified flying object fell near Milan. RS-33 was the name of the research team, and Guglielmo Marconi was in charge. For those who are unfamiliar, especially since I probably butchered his first name, I apologize, I speak French, not Italian. He was the inventor of the radio and a supporter of Mussolini's fascist administration. According to a quote from Pinotti in an interview, in 1996, his colleague Alfredo Lusoni and himself began investigating the story of the 1933 UFO crash in Lombardy when they received some original secret documents about said case. The documents were obtained from someone who claimed to have inherited them from a family member, and this family member allegedly worked with Mussolini's RS-33. I know, you're probably asking right now, hey Alexa, what were the contents of the documents? 2 telegrams written in Italian in June of 1933, if I'm being exact. One requested absolute silence over an alleged landing on national soil of unknown aircraft, while another issued orders for immediate arrest and maximum penalties against anyone reporting on aircraft of unknown nature and origin on June 13th. According to the Daily Mail, this was the personal order of Mussolini. The UFO, according to Roberto, was kept in a hangar near Milan, and this lasted until the Allies seized control of Italy during the Second World War. The UFO was then captured and returned to the United States by American troops. I could go on a whole separate tangent about alien tech, Second World War theories, and America covering up alien spawnings around the world, but we'd be here all night. Nevertheless, that all seems mighty suspicious to me. Anyone else? Okie dokie. Time to throw an imaginary dart at the wall and see what we land on next. Good old Scientology. So this is a set of beliefs and practices invented by the American author L. Ron Hubbard, who developed a set of ideas he called Dianetics, which he represented as a form of therapy. Yeah, emphasis on the air quotes here. The organization that he established in 1950 to promote it went bankrupt, and then he lost the rights to his book in 1952. But he then recharacterized his ideas as religion for tax purposes and renamed them Scientology. If you know, you know. By 1954, he had regained the rights to Dianetics and founded the Church of Scientology, which remains the largest organization organization promoting Scientology. There are practitioners independent of the church in what is called the Free Zone. Estimates put the number of Scientologists at just under 40,000 worldwide. You know, not a lot of people. Scientology beliefs include reincarnation and that traumatic events cause problematic engrams in the mind. They believe that an activity called auditing can remove the bad engrams. Oh, and you're charged a fee for each session because they gotta make their money somehow. Once an auditor deems an individual free of engrams, typically after several years, they are given the status of clear. Now, after being deemed clear, adherents can take part in further activities called operating thetan levels, which require further payments. Hey, somebody's gotta pay Tom Cruise. The operating thetan texts are kept secret from most followers and revealed only after adherents have typically given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Scientology organization. If you don't have ridiculous amounts of money to burn, don't worry, they're freely available online on sites such as WikiLeaks. And if you don't want to waste your time, these texts say past lives took place in extraterrestrial cultures. I don't agree with Scientology, but I do agree with aliens visiting Earth, or else we wouldn't be here today. They involve an alien called Xenu, described as a planetary ruler 70 million years ago who brought billions of aliens to Earth and killed them with thermonuclear weapons. Despite being kept secret from most followers, this forms the central mythological framework of Scientology's, psyche. It makes sense, I swear. From soon after the formation, all of the Scientology groups have generated considerable amounts of opposition and controversy, mostly because of illegal activities. In 1967, Hubbard established a new elite group, the Sea Organization, or Sea Org, the membership of which was drawn from the most committed members of the church. Now, by 1981, 21-year-old, at the time, David Miscavige, who had been one of, big guy's closest second-in-commands, rose to prominence. Hubbard died at his ranch in Creston, California in January of 1986, and Miscavige succeeded him as the head of the church, a position he holds till this day. Now, he's done a lot of shady stuff, but we're not going to touch on that today. I've talked about it ad nauseum. The Church of Scientology has been described by government inquiries, international parliamentary bodies, scholars, law lords, and numerous superior court judges as both a dangerous cult and a manipulative profit-making business. I could talk for, hours and hours about how awful they are, but the most important thing is that, we share a belief. Ancient aliens coming to Earth, educating everybody. Alrighty, this is something that has always stumped me, so we're gonna move along, but let's just think about this for a moment. The graffiti inside the Great Pyramids. Yes, I'm gonna explain. In the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids. The Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkaure, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. I'd like to visit there someday, ideally. Though each was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel is, though, the Great Pyramid. We've all heard about it, we all know it, we all love it. Most believe that it was erected under the watchful eye of the great pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing 146.7 meters high and stretching 234.4 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is particularly amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time, and that construction took only 20 years. Look, if that sounds like a lot to anybody, try living in Toronto, where construction takes that long to renovate a single road. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north quite precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. The origins and composition of the Great Pyramid, our oldest wonder of the world and its slightly less famous kin, have long confounded scholars. How did engineers manage to achieve all of this so fast? Well, nobody knows. Genuinely, nobody has any idea, well, with absolute certainty that is. While some believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has been largely disproven because there's not a lot of archaeological evidence to support the claim. So, this is where our lovely ancient aliens come into play. They must have helped. I'm not saying they did all the work, that would be discrediting the incredible workers from history. But it's true that it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids. And there is missing history about how they were built. A lot of folks have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times just help kickstart civilization. They're not responsible for all of it. Well, I don't think so anyways. But they just gave us a little nudge. A helping hand, if you will. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us kind of argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, you'd kind of want a bird's eye view. The kind that could be provided from, flying saucer? Also, in order to create an object that obeys the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on 5, the Egyptians might have wanted some help from outside sources. Look, this theory has persisted existed to today. It's still going. We all talk about this. Let's go back to 2001. Russian scientist Dr. Viktor Ivanovich claimed that the KGB had found ancient alien remains inside the Great Pyramid. Hey, it's got quite the inner network of shafts, passageways, and chambers that is so intricate that it's not hard to understand why people believe that some sort of divinity or superintelligence could be involved. Also, the only hieroglyphs inside are graffiti, alleged to be left behind by those who worked on the structure as a signature, which only further supports my theory on the aliens only knowing that to communicate with us by. I've talked about this theory time and time again, but like time capsules, the pyramids are physical symbols of ancient wisdom. Look, they're made of glittering golden limestone, and they always remain around a cool 20 degrees centigrade inside, which provides glimpses of an ancient society that once near the kind of technological intelligence we possess today. Who knows? Maybe in 2,000 years, historians will speculate about the extraterrestrial origins of our fallen civilization, and maybe by then they'll be able to consult them for help. Next up, stories from the Ramayana. In Hindu mythology, the gods and their avatars travel from place to place in flying vehicles called vimana. There are many mentions of these flying objects in the Ramayana, which used by the king Ravana from Sri Lanka dates to the 5th or 4th century BCE. Obviously, I do have some examples. So from Book 6, The Magic Car, is not the wondrous chariot mine, named Pushpak, wrought by hands divine. This chariot, kept with utmost care, will waft thee through the fields of air, and thou shalt light unwearied down in fair Ayodhya's royal town. From the departure, swift through the air, as Rama chose, the wondrous car from earth arose, and decked with swans and silver wings, bore through the clouds its fright of kings. Eric von Daniken discusses the Ramayana and Vimanas in chapter 6, Chariots of the Gods, suggesting that they were space vehicles. To support his hypothesis, he offers a quotation, which he says is from an 1889 translation of the Mahabharata by C. Roy. Bhima flew with his Vimana on an enormous ray, which was as brilliant as the sun and made a noise like the thunder of a storm. The existence of the text was revealed in 1952 by G.R. Joycer, who asserted that it was written by Pandit Subbaraya Shastri, who dictated it during the years between 1918 to 23. A Hindi translation was published in 1959, while the Sanskrit text with an English translation was published in 73. It contains a lot of information in which Shastri claimed was psychically delivered to him by the ancient Hindu sage Bahajava. This text tends to be great proof for those of us who believe in ancient astronauts, otherwise known as the Anunnaki, which brings me to my next and final point. Seriously, did you think I was going to end today without going more in depth about the Anunnaki? Please! It's often suggested that the Anunnaki possessed the technology to either fly, either within our atmosphere, or between planets. Ancient depictions of winged gods or flying discs get cited as evidence. Which kind of support modern day UFO theories and beliefs, something I believe in. Depictions of modern craft found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors, which is believed to be none other than the Anunnaki. For folks like us, hieroglyphs, yep, you heard me, appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago, kinda makes us believe that ancient Egyptians were visited by the aliens. Look, if ancient civilizations were putting helicopters and modern spacecrafts in their artwork, they had to have some idea where that was coming from. They had to see it somewhere, or they had really great imaginations, but that kinda makes sense to me. Look, some folks even go so far as to believe that all or some humans are either descendants or creations of extraterrestrial intelligence, because they just landed on Earth and decided to repopulate. An associated idea is that human knowledge, religion, and culture came from extraterrestrial visitors way back when, so the Anunnaki acted as some sort of a mother culture. The evidence for ancient astronauts comes from documentary gaps in history and archaeological records, while citing archaeological artifacts that are believed to be beyond the technical capabilities of the people who made them. While I don't completely agree with that theory, there are elements of it that you can't explain otherwise. These are referred to as out-of-place artifacts and include quite a bit of artwork that it makes sense.